All right, everybody. Adam and John back with another episode of the Bowhunter Chronicles podcast. And this, I mean, I don't know what Greg would say, but I would say this is like a friend of ours. Like, you meet somebody once, you have a beer with them or whatever, but you shoot a lot of foam in the dick and you you make the most lewd, lascivious comments, and the if he hotbox farts your Suburban, I think you could say we're friends now.
Yeah, we're there.
So the Bowhunting Fiend, Greg Litzinger, always a pleasure, but it's a lot more fun because of the interactions, I think, of the past year.
Yeah, the history. We got history now.
So we brought this up on another podcast. I don't think we talked about it with you. Have you listened to Taylor and Billy's podcast about
cases? I've been cut off like 3 times. It's like I'm like cursed because every time I get into it, like at work, if something happens, it's like I guess I'm not even supposed to listen to it. So now, like, I don't even want to listen to it because it's like it might just take away the mystique. Like, I think maybe what I have in my head is good enough. Like so outside forces are like, nah, you don't need to relive that. What you got is good enough.
But yeah, so we were fortunate enough. Greg came and stayed with us and shot with us at Total Archery Challenge this year. You've shot Total Archery Challenges in the past. I don't know if you've traveled, like, I mean, I guess it's out of state for you to go to PA, but I don't know what the climate is like. So what did you think of Michigan's event?
Michigan was smaller, like Seven Springs. It's a little more larger. And it's a nice course, but you kind of know what to expect, because you shoot it, I think I shot it 4 times. So you kind of know what they're going to put out, every now and then, like a new target or like a new course put in there. But, Michigan was nice. It was different. I'm shooting with a different group of people and just different looks, and that mountain we had the pine hills, like a section of flat pines, to like shooting across the ravines. So some of them like slightly uphill, like off-centered shots. Like Seven Springs is more kind of you're here and you're like kind of shooting more up, and I've shot Seven Springs for like tournaments as well, so I shot that mountain quite a bit. So it's nice to shoot a different place. It's one thing I do miss. I told my wife, like, I miss traveling and competing and shooting in new places, because the footing, the scenery, the people, archery is I've been shooting a bow a long time and traveling, and it was just brought back a lot of good memories of just having fun shooting your bow.
So Chris Langlois, who shot with us, he brought up something to ask you to kind of explain, because when we were shooting, and one thing, it's one thing to think about Greg as a deer hunter, right? But as a target shooter and someone who's been doing it for a long time, and like one of the things you told me on a podcast a long time ago was like, even Tiger Woods has a coach, right? Yeah. So if you think you're like at the top of your game or whatever, you're just fooling yourself. Like, you can always improve. There's always room for improvement. And so then to go and shoot with somebody. So like, I'm a visual learner, and I go like, I think that's great. Even when on the podcast with Johnny, he's like, when I'm out in the woods, he's like, I asked my fiance, like, what do you think about this? Because she sees the woods different. She's like, I don't know. He's like, well, maybe you see something that I don't see, right? Because you can always gain something from somebody. Yeah. And one of the things you were kind of coaching us as we were shooting, and you're taking videos of every shot and trying to analyze it. But you were talking about on those uneven shots, not just leveling your bubble with your hand or your wrist, but doing it like with your core. Yeah. And he just wanted to know to kind of ask you, like, to explain like why that is or how that affects everything downstream.
Hand torque. This is my daughter's bracelet. Let me take that off so it don't fall. But hand torque, you got here, that's how you normally shoot. You start doing this, trying to level your bow out. you're introducing torque into the grip. So especially in a hunting situation, with the broadhead, that adds a lot of. It's not like a field point. You're not going to get away much with a broadhead. It's going to, if you torque a little bit, that broadhead is like, oh, we're going to party. All right, I'm going to shoot far right or far left. So when you steering it with your body, even from a tree stand or even with a saddle, it's super important. You're here, just lean back a little bit, get that bubble level, so your grip stays the same as you shooting on flatland. And that's something I learned the hard way first time shooting some steep terrain. I was like, oh, I'll just level. I'm shooting left and right basically. I was like, I'll just level with my hand. Well, now I'm shooting the opposite because I'm putting torque into the grip.
Yeah, because like again, like being there, and I feel like I just watch, like it's interesting because I talked about it last year because we shot behind Andy. Mm-hmm. And so, you watch Andy may do anything, but like you watch him shoot and he shoots just like John. Like they have their whole process like broken down into like, this is exact, like they're in the zone as soon as they click on the release, and you're like the exact same way. But then you're like, hey, can you video this? Can you, you're breaking it down like a little bit further. And you were helping us. And that was one thing I think, a lot of the guys, because Greg shot with a bunch of like a band of characters, I would say. But everybody was like, I don't know, like impressed of like how humble you are. You're the great Greg Litzinger, right? And you're coming. Well, but I mean, whoa. But to actually say, to step in and say like, hey, on this shot you did this, so the next time let me show you like what to do, and like helping, and I know, I talked to Chris a lot after that, but he was saying, and I think it holds true, you go, if you've never shot something like that, it can be intimidating. And then like, here's this guy that you see on all the podcasts and you follow on social media, and then he's right there, shooting dimes or dicks.
Yeah.
And it could be intimidating, right?
Or the drain tube out of the javelina.
It's 12 of them.
That was a true dick there.
So you said, getting out and shooting with different people, like, what did you think of the crew of the group? Because I mean, if you had a different temperament, that could have been a really uncomfortable.
Yeah, if you had thin skin, that it would have been a long day. And I've competed with guys that have thin skin, because even when you're serious and you're competing, they're still joking and banter. But I've shot with some guys that they just they're so into it, like they're so focused on that, but they can't even get out of that mode for a second. And if they do, it's like they're there. I'm there to have fun and also like win and have a good time. But there's some guys that just can't, like they're there to win and and do whatever. That was never my thing. Even like competing, like I'm competing when I step up to the stake, and I'm walking up to pulling the arrow. Once I pull the arrow out, it's everything's off and I'm normal Greg, and then I get to the stake, I put my game face on, and then I kind of take it serious.
So someone makes a funny comment.
Yeah. Yeah, you guys are brutal.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I was most impressed with you and with Jake, to be fully in. And I think Jake was already through the click and was able to let down without just sending one into oblivion.
That's good too. Like those situations like that, you shooting the people you don't really know, and those moments where like it's okay to let down, and shooting hinges and spike releases, like it's very hard to let down. A lot of people won't let down once they're in it, and you got to be able to let down, man. If not, you're just going to just put them negative imprints in your brain, which isn't going to help killing a deer. Like it's okay to let down on a deer too. If the shot ain't there, don't force it, don't make it. That's like I'd rather let a buck or doe walk than hurry up and risk a shot like trying to force it, and you flank them, so that it never goes well. The odds of it going well aren't very high, so it's like I'll let that deer walk.
So John, what did you think of this year? Because usually you're shooting well, and I feel like you're rather serious. shooting, and now you had I think Greg and when we shot with TJ also, but and Jake, I mean, all weekend were, right there with you shooting really well. So was it different environment for you? Because I think it was like probably a 10 on the joking around, but I think there was a different level of shooting this year.
No, I enjoyed it. I was looking for it. I was like I couldn't wait to get up there and shoot with Greg, and I didn't really know. I mean, Jake was going to be there, but I wasn't sure if he was going to shoot with us the whole time or what. But yeah, I mean, I had a blast. I hope you can come again next year.
That's that. I told my wife, like, I'd rather. I even told Clint, whatever. Like, it's different. Like, you guys up Michigan, I was talking to Aaron about this, Belize there, and you guys are a different breed up there. You guys take hunting and shooting serious. Like, I live in a very populated state, and there's some tradition and people are serious, but not on you guys' level. You guys are just, a different monster. And it's nice because it makes me want to go back up there and shoot again, like different, here. I shoot by myself here. Even if I go to PA, there's only 3 or 4 guys I might know and meet up. But like going up there and hanging out is way cooler than I think shooting PA. So most likely I'll be back.
Yeah, hopefully next year I'll have it a little better shooting experience, because I was having an issue, not making any excuses. I shot okay, but my glasses were really screwing with me. And so right now I'm wearing new contacts, and
I can see.
And so what I had them do was, so my right eye is long distance.
Yeah.
So I can see really good in New Jersey. And then my left eye is up close. So like it's blurry as hell, but I can read my tape. So I told the eye doctor, I'm like, listen, I don't care about the rest. I need contacts that I can shoot my bow with.
Yeah.
He's like, okay, well, I'm going to give you mono vision then. I'll give you one long distance and one short. So
like a cyborg. Hold on, let me
right. So I'm like, close one eye. Oh, I dial it to 100.
It's interesting with all of the like joking around and carrying on that we did. And I mean, if you were shooting like in front of us or behind us, like they had to have been like, what in the world are those guys doing? For you to get the impression or like whatever that like the guys in Michigan are more serious. Like how can those two things be in the same sentence?
Just like before shooting, like even at the range, and just like the hunting in general, like it's not saying we don't take it serious here in New Jersey, or even like the PA, because there's rich tradition in PA, but I mean, you guys, a lot of diehards, a lot of people that shoot year round. I don't shoot year round anymore. I know I should. Like, I mean, I think I shot like shit up there. I'm not gonna lie. Like it was. I haven't been shooting, so I got no excuse. Like I shot to the level of my training, so it's like I knew what I was getting into. Like, well, I had 3 weeks to shoot, whatever, 3.5. So it is what it is. But I mean, you a lot of guys I talk to, like you guys compete in leagues, indoor leagues, and stuff like that, and you're still traveling these events. Like around here, like the indoor guys, like most of them are indoor field. They just started ramping up the 3D around here in my local range, so I'll be getting back into that a little bit. But you guys, just the core group of people that I talk to, they're just very similar to me. And like around here, not many people are doing what I'm doing, like for shooting and hunting wise. But I talk to a lot of people in Michigan that have the same kind of mindset and methods that I use down here. So it's pretty cool to, see that, talk to it, and be like, hey, like, all right, it's nice being around that. I don't really get that around here. Like even in PA, like get it, but I don't really get it, like because it's a small group of people, like that little party you had there. So many people I talk to, they're just love hunting, love shooting, like love the whole everything about it. So it's refreshing. It kind of motivates me. It's like I need to come back next year. I gotta get my shit together, because I mean I definitely not my best shooting, and it's like it's all simple things that for me, just like just pushing the bow, pushing it left. Like I was pushing left like all weekend, and footing, and not leveling the bubble, just errors. Hunting is not really like 30 yards. I was pretty good, but it's those 60, 70-yard shots, which is usually like my bread and butter, 80 yards. And it's like I just let myself down.
So from a hunting standpoint, like how does that transition to hunting? That's one of the things, like when you're on social media, like all of the detractors are like, oh yeah, here they are shooting 100 yards. And now they got this false confidence that they're going to be
roping it like this at 100.
that they're going to be, hunting at that distance, shooting at that distance. So like, how do you see events like that, like helping people transition or move towards hunting?
Puts you in, there's a lot of walking. Like we walked at one course. There's a lot of fatigue set up. So there's different things set up, side hilling, fatigue, the heat, there are all these things that just make you uncomfortable shooting. So, if it used as like a learning experience, like, all right, like I can shoot well when I'm not, I'm tired, there's a lot of shooting, like, so it's not like you're in your backyard, you're flat ground, you're just like rifling arrows. So it translates for me to, you're in unknown scenarios, shooting unknown targets. Even with a rangefinder, it's, it's not, you're unknown or whatever. So it translates to hunting because it's realistic. You're never going to feel your best. You might be sick, the wind's blowing, or you're shooting, in the cold, just something that's just not normal. So that's how I view those events, like the Total Archery Challenge. It's good if you go into mindsets like, all right, this is fun, this is like hunting related. You're not going to shooting for X's or points. You're shooting for, kill shots. Like sure, I want to shoot X's all day long, but at 60, 70 yards, I don't care what social media says. There's only a handful of people that is shooting X's at 60, 70, 80, 90, 100 yards consistently.
Right.
That one shot, like, hey, 110 yards. Well, it's one shot. It don't count. Like, well, you might have pulled all your arrows on target. Like, we don't know, Like, for me, 100 yards, I just want to hit chest cavity, and I'm happy with that, because I'm not going to shoot 100 yards at a deer, maybe even elk. I don't think I'd do it. That's just too many things to go wrong, in my opinion. Like I prefer to get a little closer. 100 yards, I might as well take a rifle anyway,
Right. Maybe like what I've always said, people look at my setup and I go out there with when we go out west, I have a 4-pin slider.
Yep.
Well, I got, 20, 30, 40, 50, and then I could dial it out to 100, but I'm not going to shoot at an elk at 100 unless I shot him up close and I want to try to get a second shot and he's standing out there 100. Now you got nothing to lose. And now I can dial it to it and shoot.
Yeah, get another arrow just for blood or whatever,
Right.
But yeah, like those things. Like first time on elk, I did a single pin and I was shooting really well. I was shooting, for me, 80 yards of pie plate with broadheads. To me, that's good shooting, in a hunting bow. 12-inch stabilizer, like nothing crazy, no scope, no magnification. And last time I went, I did a 5-pin sight, and that was it. I was like, well, it's 70 yards. To me, that's realistic. I can juggle that. Like it'd be nice to be like, yeah, it's 42. You know what? I just want to be able to just pull back and heat a moment, and just I know where the 40, and just let it rip. So like. For me, if I go back elk hunting, I'll probably have a 5-pin sight. Like I think 70 yards is, I practice shooting 90, just holding it up, and just using the sight bubble or something. But for me, I like fixed pins. One less thing I got to worry about in the heat of the moment.
Right.
So for this year, when does your season start, or when are you gonna start hunting?
September 1st, I'll be hitting Delaware up. And I'm totally not prepared, not ready. Like I said, my shoulder's been bothering me. So like I shot the other day and I was like, wow, this is awful. It's like, so I'll just keep it short, 30 yards and under, until I get back up to speed, So I got a 3-pin sight I'm going to put on, take my 5-pin sight out and just 3 pins, 20, 30, 40, and that way I'm not tempted to shoot anything further, trying to limit I'm not comfortable shooting distance currently, so once I get some more reps, and hopefully by, mid-October, I'll be, in shooting form, and I'll put the 5-pin sight back on.
So for a September hunt, and you're, if I'm still understanding, but I don't think that I'm mistaken, is like you're all public land.
Yeah.
And so you're hunting.
Look at me. Would you allow me on your land? Like, hey, get off my property. All right, see you later.
What are you hunting, son?
Yeah.
Get away from our catalytic converters there, sir. So like an early season, like September 1st opener, like I think of you as like a bed hunter. So it's not like, okay, you're hunting, you're looking for this food source or this, like, I feel like you're looking for the bed, you're going there. So how is that different October 23rd or October 16th than it is September 1st, when I think of bucks and bachelor groups, and like, you think of it in terms of like more eyes, more deer, more problems.
Yes. In September, they're still in there. Like even like Delaware starts the 1st, and I think we're like the 11th or 12th. So we're, I go 2 early seasons back to back basically. So it's strictly food, and that's been hard for me because I'm not exactly a food hunter. But my buddy Todd, hunt with him and hunt with a few other people, like just hunt the beans, and beans is really key. Walk the edge of the bean field, see where they're coming in, and just head in the woods. And kind of just, I don't have a lock on any of the deer. I have a few cameras out there, but I probably won't even check those cameras till I'm hunting, so I don't even know what's out there. So I'm just going to go old school and cut a track and head in the woods. And like I said, I got 3 days, first 3 days of season, so I'm pretty much just quadrant, and like I said, the night before, my daughter has her, pre-K, I got to meet her teacher, so I can't even go glass the night before season opener. So I'm not going to go down to the morning. So I don't even know what I'm going to do actually opening morning. Like I might just cruise around and glass some bean fields and look for deer. I don't know. I don't really have a solid plan yet for that. But like last year we were down early and seeing where the deer were coming out. We had an idea where some bucks were. So we had a game plan set up. So this year, Todd, he's got a game plan. I'm just going to kind of just shoot from the hip. Give myself like 3 days. First day, I just take it easy and listen to Andy May and everything else he hunts. Like sit back and just watch, wait till things get in, and then Delaware, that happened to me. Like we had a wicked storm come in, so the first day and a half was just a washout, and I just kept pushing in until I found the buck sign and had those deer at 40 yards. I just, I might as well bet, in the next county it was so thick, all I could see was this rack.
So in a situation like that with deer and beans, because I have like zero experience in that. And I was asking Andy this, and he was like, I don't know, maybe you just got to go in there and glass it in the morning. Mm-hmm. But so early season, these deer are out in the beans, right? And they're probably bedding relatively close. Do they have any reason to leave the beans? Like, do they venture out from the beans and then come back to bed? Or are they just in the beans all night?
No, they'll be, because September 1st, you start getting some oaks dropping. So they're, beans, oaks, and the key is, is the oaks really. They're going to come to the beans, but they're going to hit the oaks, going in between. So the key is to find the oaks. In my opinion, like I said, I haven't killed that many deer in velvet, so don't exactly listen to me, but my experiences of hunting it is, the field edges, even Delaware, they're still skittish and spooky. So it's like, I'm not a big field edge guy, especially on public. They just, even here in New Jersey, but there's this group of bucks in the field. As soon as you stop, they're like 3-4 yards away. As soon as I stop my truck, they're gone. And it's like August. So it's like, well, come September, like it's even worse. And Delaware is like the same way. Like you just slow down and you're like, well, I'm going back in the woods. So the field edges are they're just on high alert, and then you got the does coming in. So I like to just get off, the field edges 50, 60 yards and start pushing my way back in that way, especially like on an evening hunt. I'm like, all right, they're coming out of here. I'm going to cut in here with the best wind and go in 50, 60 yards. And nothing happens there, next night I'm pushing a little bit further, and try to stay on those off winds and, hunt those quadrants. Just push each day, just pushing a little bit further. They say, because I got nothing to lose, it's like a vacation for me. So 3 days I'm going super aggressive and trying to get it done. If I can hunt the field edge, and sometimes I'll be out in midday, like last year at one field I drove by, it was 12:30, those $3 in the field at like 11:30 or 12 o'clock. And the beans was private, but the woods was public. So it was like, but the wind was just awful. That's why they were out in the beans. Like all the wind was blowing, from the woods into the beans. So the deer probably felt safe to go, get some food at noon. They knew it, nobody could come get them.
Do you think that that's common? Jake from Latitude and myself, when we were going to that Mobile Hunters Expo, we were driving around and there was deer, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, just out in the middle of these fields, just feeding. And he said that, he has seen that more and more and more often this year for some reason. So do you think that there's any other reason that they'd be out there other than just the wind is right for them to be out there? Or is there?
Yeah, it's just they're, I think a lot of variables come into play and they just want to eat. Maybe we got a cold winter coming, because I've seen it here a lot this year, even like around our way. You don't really get a lot of deer at 12 o'clock, but I've seen some deer, a few smaller bucks and some of the smaller beans driving around, and even like 2:30, like driving in from work, I've seen deer, bucks in the beans. So maybe we got a cold winter coming. I don't know. They're just, stacking bodies. Like maybe they know something we don't, but a lot of it, I think, maybe pressure based too. Like I'm hunting like middle Delaware, and not a lot of people are bow hunting in the early season. It's still beach, Labor Day weekend. So most people are at the beach. So there's only a few people, and they got, like I said, it's September, bugs are awful. So could be like a pressure thing. Maybe they're safe. They know they're not going to be bothered. And maybe the beans, maybe they plant them early and they're getting, once they start turning, at a certain point, they stop eating the beans. Maybe they're just, gorging themselves. Could be like a timing of the beans, planting of the beans, maybe. I don't know.
Maybe it's just the bugs are so bad in the woods. They're like, screw that. We're going out in the beans.
Yeah. I mean, it could be like if it's windy, you go out in those fields, you might get a little break from the bugs. It's possible, It's pretty humid too. Like June was pretty good. Middle of July, it got really humid here in Jersey. Like the second week of July, all the way up until about last week, it was like really bad. And I seen some bucks, earlier than normal. So maybe it's, tired of sweating, sitting around and getting eaten up by bugs.
So what else do you got so you got Delaware, then Jersey opens, and then what else do you have for the year?
Probably do PA if we ran into a bunch of problems doing our kitchen. We had a set budget, and we kind of went over that budget by quite a bit, because tearing down some walls and find some things like, oh, well, that's sketchy and dangerous. We should probably fix that. So spent more money than we thought we were going to spend. I like to do PA. If finances allow, I'll get the PA license. And Johnny's, November, and Clint, Truth from the Stand, he's on some bears. Like I want to shoot a bear with the bow, and PA's got, middle of October, they got like 4 or 5 days or whatever, a week of bear season. So I got a couple of days of vacation left. So I might do PA, even if I can't really afford it. I might do it.
What's a PA tag? How much does it cost?
190, $200 or something.
So that's not
Delaware's
bad.
expensive. Yeah, Delaware's like, because New Jersey will just rape you. You come to our state from out of state, they're like, oh, ka-ching, they just hit you. So Delaware kind of just reciprocates that. You know, for Jersey buying Delaware, Delaware's like, oh, you're going to screw us? We're going to screw you too. I think Delaware I paid $230 last year or something. And I literally hunted Delaware 5 times. And it was like, so I think this year I'll probably hunt Delaware a little bit more because Delaware, like Jersey, we haven't earned a buck. You got to shoot a doe if we shoot a buck. Delaware is just straight off the cuff. You can shoot bucks. So I might hunt Delaware. You know, they planted a lot of late beans up along the C&D Canal, some spots. And I get off work at 2:30. I could be there at 3:30, you know. I might hunt Delaware, you know, until end of September when Jersey opens their buck season. Because I've had a lot of nice bucks walk under me in Jersey, and you know, don't have a buck tag because I haven't shot a doe. So that's like I hate it actually. It's terrible. It's like you're letting 130 deer walk because you haven't shot a doe because you know why could I not shoot a doe on opening day? All I see is bucks. So it's like, oh, that's a nice buck. See you later. Never see you again. Cool. So
are you hunting in, I don't know, I was going to say, it just sounds stupid, but like Bucky areas? Or do you change your early season? Like,
I do a lot of like driving and glassing to make sure there's deer in the area. And then if I, see it, like a group I look for like groups of bucks. If you're seeing like 2 bucks, odds are like a big one. I don't see it a lot around here. Not saying it doesn't happen, but if there's like 4 bucks in a field and they're all like from 2 to a little bit younger, there's a very good chance in my, time driving around, there's a bigger buck sitting in the woods waiting. He's just holding back and letting the little guys do their thing before he steps out. Because even though it's August, he knows what's going on. He knows darkness is his friend, so he's going to stick to the shadows, come in that field in the far corner where you can't really see him, or come in on that rise or that low part of the field where the rest of the bucks, they're not on that level yet, because Jersey, you can kill 5 bucks every year between the seasons. So not exactly a lot of big deer running around some seasons, some years, it's, every now and again, there'll be a lot of bucks running around, a lot of nice 2.5-year-olds get killed for the next 2 years. It's, slim pickings.
but I'm talking about like in the doe season, right? So you go out opening day, you're all geeked up, but it's like you can't shoot a big buck anyways, unless you have a hell of a day or something. So
you can shoot a doe and then call it in because you can check it in, and then I think you can shoot a buck. So you can call it in from your stand, do all that stuff you want, and then you can have your buck tag. But I could be on does, and it just never works out. It's like, I'll be like, there's this old apple, crab apple tree. So it's like, I went there and I trimmed up the vines off it a few years ago. So they're always producing. Every time I sit that, the does are just on me, no matter where I sit, like in the tree, in the ground, in a hole, covered in dirt, like Arnold and Predator. Those does are like, what's up? And they run away, and you're like, how? Like, the wind is perfect for me. How do you know I'm here? They're just, I don't like those. Like, but it's weird, like early season, they're so on to me, but like come late season, I would literally sit in the bucket on the edge of the cattails, and I'll have does come out 10 yards, and they're looking at me, and I'll draw my bow back, a winter bow, and shoot them, and they don't really do anything. And it's like, you would think by a winter bow, you'd be like skitzed out of a human sitting on the bucket. Nope, they just don't even care. But early season, they're like, oh, not today, buddy. You're not getting a buck tag from me.
It's a deal with the bucks.
Yeah, I just
Bucks are like, hey, you see a dude, get the hell out of here.
Yeah,
because he's gonna shoot you, and then he's gonna shoot me.
Yeah, it's like, it's in the seasons I do shoot a doe early, like the first weekend, I just won't see a buck after that, and it's like, it's because it's like you're so hard, like, all right, the bucks are in here, but I need to shoot a doe. So it's like a week before season, you get all like in doe mode. I got to focus on the does, and you stop, because can't exactly be in the woods every day anymore. So it's like start focusing on the does, and then, every week the woods are changing this time of year. Every 2 weeks they're like deer kind of changing, and so it's like, wait, where's the bucks? No, they were here. They're not here now. They've gone somewhere else, or somebody else seen them. So it's like, it just stinks, man. Like if I shoot a doe in winter bow in Jersey, I should be able to just, because basically you're killing like 3 deer. I'm killing her plus the babies. I should get an automatic buck tag
for next year.
Yeah, it's like
I got one in the bank.
Yeah, exactly. I should be good. No, and what sucks here too, Jersey, it's like people shoot spotted fawns just to get a buck tag, and it's like because they just want to decrease the numbers. But I'm like, dude, I'm just not a fan of that, man. We're not starving. Like, you don't need to shoot a spotted fawn, or they'll shoot a mom with a baby with spawn. I'm just not comfortable with that. Like I'll see does come in, but if she's got babies, and I'm not shooting her. Like trying to find those 50 to 60 pounders. A year and a half is like impossible sometimes. It's like one mom after another and babies. You're like, nope, nope, nope. And it's like, where's your kids from last year? It's like four mama and like 4 babies, and it's like I refuse to shoot a spotted fawn or mama babies. It's just, I don't need the meat. I'm not starving. So
it's interesting what you said there, like with like how the woods are changing and everything, but like you said, you go into Doe mode. And so you talked a little bit earlier when you were saying about getting like the bad vibes or whatever. You make a bad shot, then you're out of your head and all that stuff. Like, how do you think that like applies to hunting? Dan Infalt says like you should be ready every second of every time to kill. And if you don't think you're going to kill there, then you need to get down and move, or you need to go home, or you need to go scout.
Yeah.
And so like, do you think that that's like a real thing of like manifesting, like you're like, I'm never going to see a doe, like I suck at doe hunting, and then it just
absolutely. It's I was talking to Bo the other night about that. It's like we've all been there, like when you're going to kill deer. Like there's some days like I'm driving home from work and it's like, you mean that when I had those 2 bucks fighting underneath my stand a few years ago, it's like I was driving home from work and I was like, I'm gonna shoot a deer tonight. Like I just knew it. Like everything was lining up. The wind was good. The pressure was good. Like the wind was steady for a few days, and just looking at it, I was like, I know I'm gonna shoot a deer. So I went out and it's like, boom, I shot a deer. So you definitely can be your own worst enemy, and it's like you put yourself in those situations where I need to shoot a doe before I shoot a buck. So it's like I'm playing both sides of the fence, and it's hard because it's like, all right, I need to be where the does are, but I'm not really a doe killer. Like I'll kill maybe 2 a year. I don't kill a lot of deer anymore. So it's like I need to be where the does are. But early season, these bucks, the bigger bucks, like not really hanging with the does. So it's like I'm here, but my mind's over there, like worrying about what that buck's doing. So I'm not actually like present in the moment, and maybe I'm making mistakes, or like, it's a doe, I can move my tree, or I can just make errors. And I know that's cost me, on does and bucks, especially early season. You get the fidgets, you're getting comfortable, in your saddle and your stand, like you're a little excited. Movements is thing and is big. So I need to do a better job at that. And I think that's probably why I'll hunt Delaware a little bit more. Like I can just be in buck mode, like I can just stay in that zone, and I got a few spots, around here. I just go out after work, on a Wednesday and hope for the best, once the season opens, because it's a lot, I don't want to get home at 10 o'clock at night, 3 days a week, hunting Delaware after work, that will just, I'm not 20 years old anymore, I can't really operate 4 hours sleep numerous days in a row and try to go to work and not kill myself.
So I think one of the people, like, so Greg got the pleasure of meeting the gang, but he got to hang out with Frank for a little while. And I think Frank and John, can attest to this because he's been with them just as much as I have. Frank will go in the woods and he'll just be walking along and he'll be like, yeah, this is the one. And he'll sit there and he'll kill a deer, like, and it's that kind of like confidence. I was thinking back to like, when I killed I swear it's like the brother, the sibling to this one, like that day, was like, I'm going to kill a deer tomorrow. Like the deer are moving. Like I know where I need to be. Like I just need to get in there and we're going to kill something. But there's so many other times where it's like you fuck around for the whole day and you think like the last 15 minutes, like this is going to be it. And it's like, I think you burned all your juju, by dinking around thinking that it was only going to happen at this time instead of being like locked in or whatever, and I mean, would you say like, do you know anybody else like that, or have you like experienced that? Cause I think Frank is like it's just amazing. And they say, oh yeah, time in the woods or like whatever, but he's just so like jovial about it. Like, that's the one.
Well,
Right.
thinking of movie Tommy Boy, when he's so nervous, he just strangles and then all that freaks out. He's not calm himself. Like you can think yourself out of a situation. You can overthink it, and you're putting all this pressure on yourself. Like I tell people, and before I killed my first, like bigger deer, it took me 19 years to kill a 125-inch deer. And I'll never forget this kid, Rich. He killed deer all the time. He was kind of like, he spent a lot of time in the woods. He put time in, but he never put pressure on himself. He was never like a pressure guy. And he goes, once you shoot your first one, they become a lot easier. Because you're putting all this weight and burden on you. It's like shooting 3D. You get to a target, like, I need to shoot this X. No, you need to go through your steps to shoot an X. The X is only a byproduct. Like killing a buck is only a byproduct, of your scouting, and what you're seeing, as you're adapting to what you're seeing. It's not like the end thing, so if you focus on the process, you'll be a lot better. Like Johnny Stewart's good for that. He's the same way. He goes to the woods, he'll climb up. Stories, he's like, I was up there for like 20 minutes. It's not here. I get down. It's like prime time rut. Like he goes, it's not here. I know it's not here. I'm going somewhere else. And for me, I hear that, I'm like, it's the rut. It's November, and I was so rigid, and hunting with him, like it's kind of opened my eyes to, I can go in at daybreak, just scout my way in. Like you don't need to be so tense and tight, it's just kind of roll with the punches, so to speak.
That's the way my brother is.
Yeah.
Like
I was thinking that too. But like the last podcast that I did, like it was so cool sitting down with Johnny, because like you hear all these stories, and like I talked to him for over the course of the weekend, probably like 5 hours.
Yep.
And I was like, man, I'm just probably like bothering this guy, but I just always ended up talking to Johnny. And then like I started like walking away, and he's like, so we going to do that podcast or what? And I'm like, hell yeah, we are. But I was like trying not to be, like overbearing, like this guy won't leave me alone, like whatever. But on that podcast, he's like, yeah, it was like the peak of the rut, and I only had like a couple days. So like I went in and I just ran through the woods. I literally ran for like 3 hours, like through the woods. He's like, I blew up all these spots, but I had to see, kind of like Ernie. He's like, I had to see like where it was at, because he's like, and it didn't, the deer don't really care if you're sneaking through like a predator. The deer care, and it's like, you never think like, oh yeah, that's what I got to do, is just go in like at 3 o'clock, peak rut, and just run through the woods just to check it out. Like
they're like, oh, what's this guy jogging through here? Oh, he's going.
And then in order to shoot a bigger buck, like you need to be where they're at, and like the whole like scouting. Like if more people would look at like walking in, and like so many people. Like I get to that spot, and they're just like a soldier and a robot. They're just going right to that spot, like, and they're missing all of this. What the deer browse on. Like I learned so much from Johnny, like the browse. Just I pay attention, like traction, rubs and stuff, but never what they're feeding on. And it's like you start really, and it slows you down a little bit, and you start like looking at different things. You're like, oh, what's this little leaf? They're eating this out of this. I don't know what this is, and it's like you'll see it somewhere else, and you're like, wow, they're really eating it here. Like all these small little things that add up to big things, and guys like I said, Johnny and Andy and all these guys that are killers, they have different ways of looking at things, and it's their own unique way of taking all the information and making it work for how their brain works, and even like Bo and like Bo's dad, like Bo's dad is just on another level. You're like, wow. And I see those people, I'm like, I'm an idiot when it comes to deer hunting. Like I look at it, it's like, I just must be lucky because I think I'm super, methodical and stuff like that. And you meet people, it's like, yeah, I'm like a second grader, man. Like, it's like, I'm not even, but how I operate works for my brain, like I can't sit there and have all my self cameras, numbered serial numbers and, locations and like a logbook. I'm just not that guy. I'm methodical in my stand selection trees, like, all right, 3-6 high, 210 degrees, but my cameras is like, I still got like 3 cameras. I don't even know where they're at in the big woods by my house. They're out there somewhere. Because they're not on the app, like the app's like, oh, well, it says the camera's here. And it's like, there's nothing here. And it's like, you look at the trees, and the pictures, and it's like, yeah, I don't know where the camera's at. So it's like, you never, you lose service sometimes. It's like, oh, I'm going to drop this pin right here because the camera's here. It's not there. So it's like, whatever, maybe I'll find that camera. Maybe somebody stole it. I don't know.
One of the things you said earlier, though, I think like it's kind of like twofold. Like one, you're talking about like being so rigid and just going there. And I think that's one of the things that's helped me is I used to think that kind of like you, right? Where like I got a day, so I'm a busy guy, like I gotta hunt or I gotta be there. And so it's like, well, what spot's going to be the best spot or whatever. And I used to get in there and I'd be like, well, this doesn't look great, but I gotta hunt. And so for me, what's changed is I've been like, well, I'm just going to go somewhere else and go wander around, even if it's the wrong wind or whatever. I'm not setting up to hunt here. And then like the hunting public, like you get to, the last half hour of light and you just get to the best spot. You just sit there and, you see deer or whatever, but you're learning, but when you were talking about like the doe side of it too, and you're saying like trying to play both sides of the fence and pay attention, like, I know that you say that you struggle shed hunting. And that's one of the things is like every time I try to go shed hunting, like I just end up scouting. And like that's not where the deer necessarily I'm like, oh, look at these tracks, look at these rubs. Like, where were they going? What were they thinking? Like, not where are their sheds right now or where are they right now? I can't turn that portion of it off. So like when you walk into the woods and you look at stuff like that, it's like I can't turn that off. Is that the same thing? Was that probably your downfall as well?
Yeah, it's because with the buck and the does, it's like, all right, because a buck, you go in there, he catches your ground scent, like the jig is up. So it's like, all right, I got to be gingerly because bucks will monitor does and the off wind of the does. So it's even in September, so you're like, all right, I want to shoot a doe, but then there's a really good buck. I cut a big track. So you're like, I don't want to be here. But at the same time, it's like, so I'll back out because I don't want to bump that buck. Like I should just say, well, I'm going to just kill this doe and let the chips fall where they may. But I'm so like, I don't want to bump this buck out. Well, I can't shoot a buck unless I have a buck tag, or a doe tag. So it's like, I kind of screw myself because I start overthinking. The brain's like, and I get into like October mode where it's like, all right, well, I can't be in here. My ground set, it's like September. It's like, it's almost like rut hunting the first 2 weeks. Like it's once October comes, it's a different playing field. And once November, it's a totally different playing field. You're pretty much like in a different, world, another game, if you will. So it's like September, I'm just going to just hunt, try to shoot a doe and, and get earn a buck, or just hunt Delaware so I can just shoot a buck right off the cuff.
So does that change? Is that through the whole season or is that just early season? You have to shoot a doe first?
Yeah. End of September, like 26th, 28th, sometimes even October, our buck season will start. So you can just shoot a buck, and that's usually when I have my best success anyway. There more people are starting to come in the woods and the bucks are breaking up and they're transitioning into areas that I usually scout. Like I scout for a lot of October sits. So it's like, that's more my bread and butter, October. Like I'm more comfortable in that time frame than I am September. So I'm trying to get better at all aspects of hunting. Like the late season, the rut, and September. And it's tough. Like New Jersey, we got a 6-month season. Like it's a long season. So you kind of try and, make it work for you for that long, what 5.5 months or season is. So you can get a lot of burnout in 5.5 months of hunting, so you got to be kind of selective, and there's only so many good bucks too. It's like, I want to chase. So it's like, there's no big bucks here, or I know there's big bucks over here in November. There's big bucks over here in January. So it's like, there's a lot going on, and it's like I said, that long season can really drain on you mentally.
So have you ever killed or had encounters with bucks later in the year that you've had walk under you, like in September when you didn't have a tag?
No, very rarely will I see a mature buck more than once. And I don't know why it is. And I wish I knew why. If I see a mature buck, if I don't kill him, I can think back. I mean, every deer I got in the wall here, I've never seen. The only time I've seen was when I killed him. So like even like PA, them bucks, it's like I see him, I kill him. I'm not a guy that sees the same buck like 4 times a season. I might get lucky, every few years, like see the same buck, but never like a true, like, all right, he's a shooter. I want to try and shoot this deer. I've never been that kind of guy for some reason.
Well, I'm just thinking of it from the terms of like, here I am going to help Greg Litzinger, right? But like the way that I think about that in my head is like, Zach from the Hunting Public, he's always like, I just need to see them, and then I know that they're there.
Yeah.
And you're talking about early season, and they shift from here to there, or they're moving around. And you said that, it's more, you have more success later in like October when the bucks start to break up and the pressure kind of pushes them around. So it seems like you could, now that there's a good buck in the area, and you've just, pushed him out of there or done whatever. It's like you can just figure out where he went next. And I'm sure you tried that, like, yeah. But
you make it sound so easy. Like, well, he's just over there. Like, oh, my bad. He's on the next bridge.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah. I get it, but it just seems like for somebody who's like, so like serious, methodical, do all the scouting, put in all the work, like it would seem like you'd be like, oh man, this is easy. Yeah. There they are.
I know right where he's going at that bump. Now he's going to go over there.
Yeah, because that's what all these social media guys are like. Yeah, like I saw him here and I knew he was going over there from all my scouting, and then I just killed him first sit.
And too, like for us too, for me is the struggle is like baiting's legal here. A lot of people bait, so you get certain times where like, man, I'm on this buck, with the track, like. I'm getting close to him, like, this track and there's a rub, like, all right, there's no tree, like, all right, next sit I'm gonna go and kill him. I got that vibe, I got that energy. You go in there, you don't see anything, you get down and there's a ladder stand in a bait pile or a camera, so there's a competition in the woods, and then if I know somebody else is really hunting the area or dropping bait, usually I just leave, because that definitely just changes their pattern up, initially, they might come back in like 2 or 3 weeks, but usually by that, like, it's like, oh, I'm like, oh, shiny object, and I'm somewhere else. I like solitude in the woods. Not that I don't hunt near people, but I hate seeing people in the woods, and most people I do run across, they're not very pleasant. They're them guys like, this is my area, this is my tree, this is my bait pile. It's like, I didn't realize you bought that tree. All right, cool. So I just try and avoid people, and usually that's too where I start finding, I'll have success. If I'm not seeing people, I feel like I have a better chance at shooting a buck, or even a doe for that matter, because I don't have to worry about what they're doing. Like, all right, if I know guys like heavily baiting, same trails, I'll use him to my advantage, knowing that buck's gonna skirt 60, 70 yards wide and maybe 100 yards wide. So I'll kind of concentrate my efforts over there, but I avoid where, I'll use their trails walking in and stuff like that. But, it just sounds like I'm making excuses, because I probably am.
Well, I think, one of the things with us doing this, like Patreon hunt, there's a lot of guys that are coming in that have never hunted any public, or they just don't feel comfortable like on public land. And I think what you just outlined right there is a lot of it, and there's people, and I didn't realize, like, talking to Walt, like people down in Florida, like that's like generational. Like, no, this is literally like our block of land. Like, you don't get to come in here, like, and so you hear all the stories and everything. And it's like, I think you have that like negative stigma like in your head, but realistically, I don't know how many times have you killed a deer or seen deer and then drug it out past somebody, or walked around and there was ladder stands or tree stands. I mean, in Michigan you can't go into the woods without finding tree stands and all that stuff. So it's
we're
like
the same way. It's like, hey, look, awesome, and some of the spots too, it's you're on them, and for me, like I call I just slowly tightening the noose, squeezing them, so to speak. So it's like you get on them, you're like, all right, I got 3 days, so I'm gonna go here and quadrant hunt my way in. Like, I know he's bedding in here, but I want to make sure, what kind of hunt from the fringes, so to speak, scout and hunt from the fringes, and like the third day going for the kill. And you do that, and then you're like, all right, he's in here. And then, like I said, you go in there next morning, there's like eye shine, someone's in there with a chainsaw, like after you left the woods, you're like, it's like I just spent, like 2 or 3 days pretty much for nothing. And it's like, cool, it's great, I love it.
That's like how I feel about one of Adam's spots. It's like, yeah, there's some good bucks in there, but I don't even want to deal with the people, because I hunted it like way before Adam did, and it's like, man, I just got fed up with the bullshit. Like, and sitting there after, like what you said, getting in and you kind of got some deer, figured out, or you thought you did, and all of a sudden some clown comes walking in with a freaking, bow with 3 different arrows and wearing a freaking greasy jumpsuit. Like
and that's,
dude,
I get here in Jersey, there's a half dozen guys that I know their trucks, and so it's like I see what this guy's hunting. Like, there's like, I don't know, 4 or 5 guys. They'll come in at daybreak. Like, they must be afraid of the dark, because they would literally come in, like, they'll have a headlamp on. It's like, I don't even know why I got a headlamp on, dude. Like, first of all, you're only a couple hundred yards from where you parked your truck. You might need a headlamp and left your truck, but you probably could have turned it off. But like, they come in literally where a buck would be kind of coming back into bedding, or does like feeding through, like right at that like prime time. And then they're like coughing and they're making noise, and it's like, cool. Like last year I found these bucks where they're scraping and eating these oaks, and I was like, man, I'm gonna climb up in here, the next morning. So I got there super early, took the long way in, did everything hard, only to have some guy come in, coughing, like right at like daybreak on the way in, like he's like dying. And it's like, like, yeah, like what are you doing, man? Like, why are you out here? And he climbs up stands like king, king, king. You hear him pull his crossbow up. You hear him like he's got like the crank crossbow. He's like king, 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 king. And you're like, oh, so it's like I got up super early, did all this only to have like that happen. And it's like, it's like, well, that's just, I deal with that a lot. I think a lot of people in New Jersey deal with that. That's so
in that situation, what do you do? Like, are you waiting it out and you're like, well, maybe you didn't scare him all the way? Or are you like, Johnny, like, this ain't it? Like,
sometimes I'll get down, but if I feel like it's a pretty solid spot, or like scrapes, and somebody might have a ladder stand that's like 80 yards off, I'll wait them out. Usually they're 8:30, they're down and leaving, so I try to wait them out so they don't see me get down, and see what I'm hunting. I had one guy come in last year. He came in like super early, so I he actually came in kind of early, but I flashed him with the light, and he's like, all right, I fucking see you. And I'm like, and he literally proceeds to climb up in this, like, his stand, kang, 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 all stuff. And I'm like, and he goes, what? This is my tree. Where am I supposed to go somewhere else? I'm like, dude, you're like 50 yards away from me. Like, same thing. I got there super early, did everything right. And it's like, so he got down at 8 and he was trying to still hunt, to try and find me, and I'm like, I'm 25 feet up. I got good cover, and stuff. But I mean, he got within like 40 yards of me. He was up in trees, like looking for me. But I'm like, this guy's insane, But it's like, what can you do? It's a populated state in public.
Small state, a lot of people.
And it's like some of them spots, like the deer know the people there. They're said generational hunters. They've been hunting there forever. 3 or 4 ladder stands. They try and like group it up, but those bucks know how to skirt those areas, and those does know how to skirt those areas. So if it's a good area, like all right, northwest wind, that dude's probably hunting this. The deer know this, so I'll like get 7 yards downwind of the next spot of thick cover, away from that scent, knowing that scent's blowing into that across this oak flat or whatever. I was like, well, the buck does come through here. He's not going to run away. He's going to just stay in that thick cover. So I do that a lot, like knowing that's like, all right, you're most likely hunting the northwest wind. I'm going to just go 70 yards in the nearest bit of thick cover. And you see deer, it works pretty well.
So I guess like for along that like avenue, like what are you doing to avoid that situation? You've been in that situation enough times. And so John takes the approach of, well, I'm just not hunting there. Like, do you, when you say like, okay, well, I'm gonna hunt these 3 days or like whatever.
Wait, not only does that happen, then you go in with Adam and let him, lead with the GPS, and once again, the ZZ Tops, symbol on the GPS. We walk in, 2 miles to a 3/4 mile stand.
Yeah.
But he could have killed a buck that day. He was at full draw on a decent buck.
Yeah, decent buck.
So, I mean, it wasn't all for naught. We just didn't take, that's how I avoid people, is I keep it mixed up. They don't,
and
they never know where there was a guy.
They never know what he's doing.
Yeah, the guy's like, what the hell are these clowns doing?
He killed a doe that morning too.
He killed a doe that morning. That's probably why those deer came down around that way.
Yeah.
Like for me, it's like I was talking to Bill about this too. Like it's, you can't get upset when you run into people. Like a deer doesn't smell a human and then like go running for the next county. They just take that, information, and process it and go into the next, they don't really, their day is not necessarily interrupted. They have to survive, they have to keep moving. So those moments, it sucks. Like I said, you just got to keep rolling with the punches. All right, there's people there. And then like, if I see somebody get down, like, because I do a pretty thorough job of scouting, I mark, this is great, having all these apps and, stuff on the computer, like you can see where the stands are, it's like, I do a very good job of scouting. If I see stands, I mark it, the purple, so I go in, and it's like, if I'm hunting area and somebody comes down, I don't hear the climber or hang on getting set up. It's like, all right, there's a stand I missed. So I go, I look for the stand, and usually you see, because there's a stand and there's a cart path going to their stand usually. So it's like, all right, how's this person using this? All right, because this is really good. These bucks do come through here. These does feed through here, so the bucks might come through. It's like, all right, this person, he's hunting here a lot because there's a trail worn down. There's fresh eye shine or whatever. So I'm like trying to use their pressure and access and exit to my advantage. So it's like, I'm not going to like completely abandon an area because, well, they're probably not going to shoot a buck, but I can shoot a buck there. Even like with bedding, especially during the rut, bucks bedding off does. If the does are coming into an area, they're feeding, or someone's baiting, I know does are coming in, then bucks are going to be just hanging out. So I'll just find the next bit of thick cover and like hunt there for, a sit or two.
So I think one of the things that we like kind of take for granted too, and I don't mean it in like a necessarily like a positive way, but like you go into an area and you think like, this is great, nobody else is hunting here, this is mine, and like for every one of those cart paths and tree stands, and like at least in Michigan, and John's seen it like firsthand, like there's guys that are just like us, that we're putting all this information out there, and like, you're not finding, you might find some marks on the tree where my sticks were there
Yeah.
or whatever, or you get to a tree and you're like, son of a bitch, like
someone's been in this
but,
tree.
But they're doing all the same work that you're doing. I mean, John went to this spot that was nasty, and then there's guys with hunting beast stickers on their truck, and they got the lone wolf climbers and stuff, and he's like, all right, you're doing your homework,
Yeah, that's I had a spot last year. I put a camera out and I went in there, and there's a 3 or 4 day window, and it's like sometimes it's before Halloween, sometimes it's after. It's like like a crapshoot. In the last, I don't know, 8 or 10 years, and it's like you have to be there and try to get a few sits in. You get usually a good idea if you go in, and I try to go in now like mid-October, because usually if that scrape's open mid-October, it's going to be before Halloween. You go in there, October 20th, and this big scraping area is kind of dormant, or it's going to be after Halloween. But I put a camera on this scrape, and I went in, and nothing happened in mid-October. So I never got a chance to go back there because, wife got sick with COVID there. So my 2-week vacation, I was pretty much home. And I pulled the camera in January, and there was, put this place so people that follow this guy, they might not get offended, but it was 2 dudes that wanted to be Cody D'Acquisto. He was like the beard, the long hair, the flannel, everything, everything that he does and wears and rocks and does, like they were doing. And they were, and I remember like driving to work in the morning and seeing this truck, and they were from not around here. They were from surprised they must have been like in a shutdown somewhere working, I guess, but they were going through this area, I'm like, oh, all right, and I had another instance in another section of woods, 2 guys, same thing, going through, they hunted the snot out of this place for like 3 days, and it's like, I've been hunting there a long time, and how they hunted it is how I used to hunt it in high school, going in, and it's like, it's wrong. It's like wrong, doesn't work, but I give them credit for trying. They went in there. It's like, because the buck sign's there, but how that buck comes into that piece is not how the sign's laid out. The buck is he's a hammer of a buck, and it's like how he comes in there. He's like, man, all this buck signs here. That buck comes in, like, does this giant loop, goes this way. Everybody thinks he's coming out, and it's like, but I applaud them for what they were trying,
But without that camera, I mean, you'd have thought, like, I got the place to myself, like, yeah, nobody's been in here. It's, and with all this mobile hunting, gear, everything's improving. And I think
these damn podcasts telling people.
Oh yeah. But the apps too. I mean, your brother's run into that, places where he'd never seen anybody in years, finds a guy hunting in one of these like super remote areas, and he's like, well, how did you find it? And he's like, well, I just looked on Onyx and I walked back here, and he like took the longest possible, most like, difficult way to get in there.
There's a big dynamic shift in that. The level of competition has risen. When I was hunting the salt marsh, like I was riding a canoe and stuff like that, like before I had my daughter, like some sketchy shit to get out in some of these islands. And I remember going out, tree was perfect, you kept tied in, and I remember sitting it, in the early season, like nothing. And I was like, all right, well, I'm going to go back in there for a morning sit in November, and hopefully catch a buck, maybe come back there with a doe. So I get in there, get in the dark, I'm set up in a tree, like gets a light. I'm looking at the tree next to me. I'm like, oh, and it said stick marks. And the fucking screwing bow hanger thing. I was like, dude, like, and so when I got down, they got wear chest waders and stuff like that. It's like no boat motor. It wasn't a boat motor. The dude took a canoe in there. I see where, he kind of came in, but pretty much on the same island, like doing what I was doing. And I'm like, fuck. I'm like, all the shit I've put out there, I was like, somebody that maybe heard something. I'm like, dude's like, follow me around. And then last year I come up on this rub line, took a long way in, and I set up kind of early. It was like a rainy day. I was like, I'm going to go set it just to kind of count, walk my way in the dark through the long way through the swamp. So I get the tree set up. I knew I probably wasn't going to see a deer, or especially a buck. It was too early. So I go back, October 25th or something. And I'm sitting in the tree and same thing. And like I look over and I was like, what the fuck? And it's like there's a fucking screw hole like right there. And I'm like, this dude was literally like in a tree, like I could touch. He was literally hunting the same spot. It's like, oh, all right. So the competition has definitely increased, and you got to be able to adapt to that pressure. And that's going to be, you're going to see a different breed of hunter, I guess, coming out with all this stuff. Technology, like especially with the stands and stuff like that, and podcasts and videos, and people like me, Andy, and Johnny putting all this information out. Somebody's going to take that information, because I remember, 15 years ago when I getting into hunting real heavily, all the mistakes and all the dumb stuff I was doing. Well, now there's a whole nother, batch of people coming in. So there's going to be people that are making mistakes now. In 10 years, you'll probably have on your podcast, because they're going to start figuring things out that works for them.
Well, it's funny. Like, I don't think we talked about it on the podcast. I think it was somewhere else, but Cody Rich said, like, every time there's an uptick in something, like there's something else that gives. So that creates like an opening, right? And so that might be like those, dating the fat chick close to the road spots, or like you see it with elk hunting, like where everybody wants to go way back in. Now the elk are by the road, or like, these animals aren't stupid. The deer still have to live and, circumvent human pressure and human existence. But like my point is like, you can go in and you can get this pristine place and you're like, oh my God, the sign's here. Nobody's in here. I haven't seen the ladder stand. I haven't seen anything. And then, what you're dealing with, there's guys like us, that are out there. And that's what's crazy, is like the spot where John and I went and scouted, and I've hunted there a few times. Like I put up a cell cam. I was running cell cam for 2 years, never hunted in there, but one time I felt like I was doing it right. Right. So I'm getting pictures, I'm logging the pictures. I'm like, okay, what are the dates? Everything. And then last year, like, I get a dude on my camera, like October 20th or something like that. And he walks by and he's got a stand, and then he walks back by, and then he sees the camera, And then I go in there and he's like literally in the tree that I have marked from 2 years ago when I walked in there.
Yeah.
And like, that's where the stand is. And I'm like, well, but it was
kudos to him,
Yeah.
And you brought up the pushback when something, uptick, something gives, like the public land it's the hot thing right now, because you look at 10 years ago, it was TV, outfitters, managed land. Well, that becomes, it's unreasonable for a lot of people, So now you're just getting the people that are losing their leases, or they can't afford their leases anymore. And now with the YouTube, the hunting public, and the hunting beasts, all that stuff. So now there's a switch back into public land, and you're seeing there's some really good hunters now, a lot more on public land, because maybe they lost their lease or they want that challenge. So competition has definitely gotten fierce in some spots. Especially in the populated state. It's not like the Midwest. It's a different breed of animal. From what I read and see, but like, you have to keep evolving as a hunter, like the deer, they're constantly evolving, like Joe Rentmeester had posted something about bucks watching parking lots. He sees that a lot more now, it's like, let's just, evolutionary tactic to survive. Like, all right, I'm going to watch where people go, so I know where, all right, everybody went this way, well, I'm going this way. It's like, it's just something that evolved, to stay alive. And we need to, follow suit, and I don't necessarily hunt to eat, to survive, so to speak, but I do hunt, for the thrill of it, and to test my mettle, against some, larger, smarter animals.
That's what you're calling the guy with the crossbow and the ladder stand and the chainsaw.
Yeah.
Competing against the larger, smarter animal.
Yeah, but like that, it's, I think a lot of people want to be a public land hunter. They I think a lot of people have don't fully understand like the stuff they see on YouTube. YouTube is like some of the bigger names. It's almost like TV. These guys are hunting 5, 6, 7 days a week. You know, that's all they do.
Right.
So they see like, oh, it's so easy. I go out to public land and I just see a big buck. These dudes are working their tail off on a regular basis to see those deer shoot. Yeah, it's on public. You know, like I know a couple old timers that only hunt November because they're getting up there in age. Like they already have so many, you know, they can't hunt the heat or the extreme cold. So they save all their energy for Halloween, you know, in the month of November. And they hunt from the ground with longbows and they kill monsters on public out in salt marsh, stuff like that. Like they've been doing it for a long time. And I met them, kind of became friends with them, you know, and learned a lot from these guys that have been doing it a long time, killing big deer. And you got to respect what they do, you know, and they respect like how I go about it, you know, because I'm just a new version of what they are, you know. So
yeah, for that 20-minute video that they go in and kill, they probably hunted 20 days just to get the footage on that steady.
Yeah,
I mean,
and
it's like the hunting public last year, wasn't it? They had like a real, like they barely had any kills, but you know, they hunted every freaking day, you know, like they're going from state to state to state, hunting. And, you know, they had a couple good kills, but nothing like the year before when they killed all those deer on, you know, on the ground. And
that's like, I mean, you're a fisherman, you know that like some years, like you can't catch fish, save your life. You know, it's like chunking a winder for nothing. And other years, it's like they're like jumping in the boat, you know, same way, you know, you're like, it's feast or famine almost when it comes to, you know, public, like duck hunting. I got friends that are big duck hunters. Some years they just, I mean, smash ducks. Other years, like they're going out there and like, you know, nothing's happening for them. That's just the way it goes sometimes.
right.
Well, when you say like people want to be public land hunters, like I, you know, I feel like it's just like mostly public, but I've been like challenging myself to go to different areas, you know, and like that is where like I feel like brand new, like rookie. Like I don't have, I mean, I like finding new sign and figuring it out, but like I went to a spot like a week ago for this like Patreon hunt, and I was in like this freaking grass or whatever, like stinging nettles, like kind of like the Dan Infalt video where he got his camera stolen or whatever, like up to my nipples, like just walking through, like looking on the app, like I need to get through here, and I'm like looking around, and I'm like, I could be lost. Like this is terrible. Like nobody knows where I'm at. The deer flies are like this is awful. Like this is terrible, you know. But then I'm like, oh look there, and it's like I'm looking for buck sign, right? But I'm like, man, there's really big poop right there. Like there's some good tracks. Like there's deer in here. Like where are they at? So you push in further and you push in further, and you're like, I'm so stupid. Like this is, I may never come back in here. Like that's like the public land stuff that like nobody shows you.
Right.
Well, dude, like, you know, when I was really dialed in and everything, like 100% hunting and big buck mentality, I was shooting one deer a year. It was I think 6 years in a row, 6 out of 7 or whatever. But I literally seen pretty much one buck and I killed it. And people were like, "Oh, you're shooting all those big bucks." I'm like, dude, I literally hunted from September. I shot my deer, you know, say October 20th. And I used to, you know, there was 20 hunts from there to there. I seen one buck or 2 bucks, you know, and it's like, and the month of November, I didn't see shit. December, nope. January, nope. So it's literally all that and all the scouting. I literally had one opportunity at a buck. It wasn't luck. And I was like, is awful. Like it's like it's terrible, and it's like I don't recommend, you know, like my method of hunting to anybody because it's like it's more misery than pleasure. But I enjoy that, you know, that challenge that comes with it, you know, and even now, like you see, you know, speaking of trends, I guess like scrape hunting. I was out, was it last Sunday or Sunday before, or whatever, and I never see cameras and scrapes worked over at all, ever, in this section of woods in the last 10 years. I ran across 3 cell cameras with scrapes that people had on, you know, here at the beginning of August. Never seen that, because you see that on social media now, like it's scrapes. Like I've always used scrapes. I just never really talked about it, because it's like there's just some things you just don't want, but there's a lot of scrape people running cameras on scrapes. So like this year in this piece of woods, like I don't know what it's gonna do because it's new. Like I've never seen it. So it's like it's definitely gonna change how those deer are rotating in and out and moving. So it's like, all right, when I go in there, am I hunting pressure beds, pressure spots? It's because it's like it's kind of open, and they do scraping there like every year, late October. It's like prime scraping area. Now, like people running cameras, in August, and it's like, all right, that's going to be interesting. That's going to be something different.
There you go. You're going to have to evolve and change your tactic to kill the deer in that area.
Yeah.
But see, like, I feel like, you say like, I'm not a good rut hunter. Like I feel like I'm a good rut hunter because it's easy to find deer. Like if you can find a deer, you can generally see a buck. Now it might not be the buck that you're hunting, right? But like when I go into a new area, like I don't really care about like what you're talking about, like a hunt. Like, and I feel like this is something that's like way like overlooked or not talked about, like from that same perspective, is like when I go into an area in my first sit or whatever, like if I have a deer in bow range, like it's a win. It's not like, oh, I didn't see like that buck or like whatever. It's like I just picked a tree in the middle of the woods, and there was a deer. Like, but those days like where you don't see deer and you don't see deer over and over and over, like that's where it's like the hardest part, because like it's fine, like all that stage hunting in that quadrant and put pressuring around because you're like, okay, well, I'm going to push in. Like you sit down and you're like, I saw a deer like move through there, just I saw his back, or like, so now we're going to move. We got to go check that out and see why were they over there, and then figure it out. But it's like when you go in and you're solid on a spot and you're not like, oh, this is going to suck, or like this isn't the day, or this isn't the spot. You're like, this is the best spot in this area, and you don't see shit. It's like the most disheartening. And then you've got that freaking in the dark, up and down bullshit walk out, like
walk of shame.
Exactly.
Well, that's too, it's like last year hunting the big woods, like I got my butt kicked and I was in the right place just at the wrong time, like all season long. And I got so like, cause I told myself I'm not hunting anywhere else. And that was a mistake because I like to bounce around a lot because it keeps things fresh for me. Like some salt marsh, some cattail swamps, like I like a variety of hunting. And I stuck in this big woods and I got so, I won't say angry, but like almost like said defeated. It's like going in there, it's like get super early, take a long way in, and it's like nothing. So I was like, I need a break. So I went to the salt marsh, and first morning, boom, I had a 130-inch deer, coming at me. I just couldn't get a shot, but it's like I needed that change because it almost like invigorated me to like go back into the big woods there. Like I was like, all right, I can see deer. Like I know what I'm doing, it's like, and I went in there and like, and then my wife got sick and it was like, I did go out once and had, a deer at like 5 yards, a nice 7-pointer at 5 yards. Looking back now, I probably should have shot him. And I was like, I'm not going to shoot him. And I regret not shooting him because it was pretty much the only shot opportunity I had all season long. And he was like 5 yards. Like, I got winded by a doe and it was like a dinner bell. And that buck was like November 12th or something coming and running right to me. And it was like, I could have shot him like 30 times. And I was like, I want something bigger. And that was literally my only opportunity at a buck. And I was like, cool. Yeah. But that's just hunting,
So like from that standpoint, like what are your goals this year? Like as you look like down the pipe, like for me, like I don't know that I said it on the podcast, maybe I did, but like I'm gonna go like on a killing spree. Like the first deer that walks out, and it always happens. Like it's like a 4-point or it's a spotted fawn.
Yeah.
And then it's like, what do you do? But I'm just going to kill deer this year. Like I'm just, because last year there were so many deer that I didn't kill. And then I hit one bad and didn't find it. And then like then it was like, okay, well, I'm just going to kill some deer, and everything went wrong. Like I was drawn back, like, I don't know, 4 or 5 times on different does and whatnot. And it just, every time was wrong, on the ground, in a tree, after, like right at last light, like everything was just, and there were so many times, like going before I went elk hunting, there were deer that I let walk because I was like, oh, I'm going elk hunting, I don't need that. And then when it got back into like the good part of hunting, it was like everything was shit. This year, from the get.
Yeah, like last year, I lost my freezer. We have work done in the basement, so I lost a whole freezer full of deer meat. What was it in October? I think it was, and like right at like prime time, of hunting. And it usually is like I'll get a doe early season, when I can, or maybe 2, if I'm lucky, in like mid-October. So I lost all my deer meat and didn't shoot a deer last year. So like this year, it's like I gotta restock that freezer. So I'm definitely gonna shoot. I'll be a little trigger happy this year. My goal is to try and put 3 deer on the ground, and maybe a bear if I go to PA. But I think that's a reasonable goal instead of, and I'm hunting the big woods, and I'm going to hunt the time frames that I know work best for me. Like I'm a mid-October. I see a lot of bucks in mid-October, always have for the last 30 years. It's been a good, the 15th to the 21st. I see a lot of bucks. So I'm going to focus a lot of time, energy in the woods there. But I got a few dead spots, like end of September. Unless I see a buck, see a buck, in a field, probably not going to spend a lot of time in the woods. Do some chores around home, spend some time with the family, and really give myself those 3 to 4 day blocks and hunt for 3 or 4 days. I'm going to take one of my vacations. I'm going to break it up. So I got 3 days, and then I can just hunt those 3 days because, your family. I have a week off of work. It's like, all right, I'm gonna hunt a week straight, 5, 6, 7 days straight. I got kids and wife. I can't hunt, 7 days, especially around here because I feel guilty. It's like, oh, I can do this and do this. So for me, I'm gonna take and told my wife, the 3 day window. When I'm off for 3 days, like I'm gonna hunt for 3 days. Maybe I'll be back for lunch, maybe I won't, but I'll be away for 3 days, pretty much. Don't count on me to be here. Sorry, not sorry. And then, and I think that way I can focus strictly on hunting when I'm in the woods, not like, hey, I should be doing something, or I gotta go to the dump, or we need to go food shopping. I'm gonna try and plan out my hunts with the little blocks where I see deer, historically see deer, and to give those 3 days, give everything I have for those 3 days, and then nothing happens, go back to work, or finish out the vacation, doing stuff around the house, and wait for the next 3 day window and give it all my all. Because it's not like elk hunting, it's like, it's not like go to Johnny's. It's even like Johnny's in Allegheny. It's like 4 days is like my limit to be really in on whitetails, because you go all in, like I'm kind of spent after 4 days. Like it's tough, you start making mistakes. I gotta get home. I gotta do stuff, so I'm gonna keep it short and then really focus in that short time frame.
What about you, John?
Well, I'm just gonna probably kill the first thing I see, because I only could be able to hunt like the one weekend with the Patreons pretty much if I'm lucky for that. So
who builds a house during hunt season? It's kind of like getting married, like
October 4th.
Yeah. Which he did.
Yeah.
And then, why don't you just have some kids, like, right, November, like you?
Oh, yeah, October 9th. Well, my son's birthday is October 9th. So I did invite him. I'm like, hey, he's going to college this year. This is his first year. He just graduated high school. And I talked to him like, hey, you gonna be able to hunt this year? He's like, yeah, I think I'll be able. I'm like, so I said, how about you come up for your birthday? We're going to go up to the Patreon hunt. So I'm going to set up a new bow for him, like one of my old bows probably. But the deal was he was supposed to kill a deer with his original bow, but he's kind of pretty much outgrown it. It's a kid's bow, and he's darn near as big as me. So,
well, Greg, what we need you to do is kill a bunch of deer early, so that all that that time's there, and then you can come to Michigan for 3 or 4 days, and you'd be like you can see what real public land hunting's like.
Let's come down to the Pine Barrens. You'd be like, wait, deer living here? Like, holy shit.
I don't know. I don't want to mess with the crabbers or none of that. Like, I don't need to be chopped up and fed.
Yeah.
Fed to
the Pine Barrens is a tough, interesting place to hunt. Little deer and a lot of pressure. But yeah, I think I feel good about the season. You know, even though I'm not where I want to be shooting wise. Like I said, I think because even like looking back, you know, before I had kids and before I was a single, like I was very like disciplined. Like I was a weekend warrior, but my weekends consisted of hunting. That's all I did. Like I didn't do nothing else. I didn't plan anything else. Like from, you know, October to the end of November, I just hunted every weekend. That was my plan. So I was very good at it because I didn't allow the outside world to interfere with that. You know, I can keep that mindset. So I think going forward now with kids and stuff, my little block idea is going to pay off. I think I'll have a lot of success doing that. You know,
well, awesome, man.
In my mind, it's like it's going to be amazing, and then I'll get out there and probably like a catastrophe. You know, but I'll go down with the hill, go down burning, screaming, burning, kicking.
At least you'll be out there.
Yeah, not building a house.
I might. So there are deer. You know, the turkeys, the deer, all like I actually like the house is right on a nice runway, so I might be able to have my saddle on like a beam or something. You know, it's not a dwelling yet, so it's just a big shack.
Yeah.
Shooting shack.
Yeah.
So you're saying earlier you just got that new Latitude platform. I mean, obviously you're completely biased. You're with the Latitude guys. You can't say anything bad about it. But like, which one did you get, and what do you think?
The X-Wing.
Yeah.
It's like first time sitting at the ATA because like I'm a ring of steps guy. Like that's where I found comfort in saddle hunting, and mainly because of my knees. Like once I figured out like ring of steps allows me to keep my knees and ankle in a more neutral position, so to speak. I don't move a lot. I've seen a lot more deer, you know, and I was a lot more comfortable in the saddle. So when I seen their design, I was like, so I bought last year. I bought the Wild Edge Battlement, and it was narrow in a tree but wide. Like it was nice, a little bit better than a little bit wider than the tethered platforms I was using, and I like that. But it still was even worse because I'm a sitter, so my knees would be on the tree, but my ankles like it was just a terrible angle for my ankles and my knees. I was always fidgety. So I got the ring of steps. I was like, man, sit on almost straddle a tree like a motorcycle. I was like, this is comfortable. And when I seen their platform, the X-Wing, I was like, I remember Alex showing me, and I was like, so I seen it, I was like, man, that is awesome because how I sit, how I'm comfortable, and then actually being in it, you know, at ATA, and then at the Roger Johnson, I think I sat in the saddle like I probably messed up a bunch of sales. Like me and Aaron, I think I sat in the saddle for like 45 minutes just leaning on it and talking to Alex and Kevin, but it was just like, this is just super comfy, you know, how I sit in the saddle. And it's like, and with 2 ring of steps, you know, plus that platform, I think I'll have fun this year using it.
Yeah.
It's just a different design, you know, it's completely different than what everybody's doing, you know, and not to like a selling sounds like a salesman, but they took the platform idea and spun it around almost. And I think you're probably going to see other people come out with something very, very similar, because a lot of people that I put in platforms, like they don't like them, you know, like a lot of guys were old saddle hunters and like they like the ring of steps, the screw-in steps, like they're comfortable with that, you know. And so I think it's going to make some other companies kind of rethink their platform ideas.
Yeah, and I would agree with you there. Like I'm not a platform guy, and I looked at it and I'm like, yeah, whatever. Yeah. And then you stand on it and you're like, all right, I get it. Like it is like one of those things where you stand on it and you're like, okay. And my biggest thing is like, if I'm gonna like carry something up and I have to set something else up, and like that Pursuit platform, that little polymer molded one, I got one of those and it flexes all over and you can't stand up straight on it.
Yeah.
So it's like, if I'm going to carry something up the tree, have something else to fiddle around with, like I better get some sort of benefit out of it. And I need to be able to stand up straight. Like if I'm going to go through all that, and that's the thing is like, I think that's one of the things that they did really well is with the design of it and allowing you to still stand up comfortably. Yeah. There's enough surface area there, even though there's that negative space, your boots can cross over and stand up. You can stand up just on the one part, but when you do put your feet out like to the sides, you're like, okay, this is a bit more comfortable.
Yes. And that's my gripe with the ring steps is, especially when it's cold, because I like a long walk in, I got to change I got no problem changing my socks on the ground, but if you're hunting like swampy marsh, you can't really change your socks on the ground, or you have to go up in the tree. And for me, it's like trying to change my socks like on a ring of steps or get chains up in a ring of steps. Like it's tough, it's like, all right, I'm gonna hold the boot, like hold the stinky ass rubber boot in your mouth, like trying to take off socks, like you're pushing out, and it's like, and I wanted to try, like I did try the out on a limb angled platform with the ring of steps, and it was same thing. It was angled, you couldn't stand up. And then I brought the Wild Edge battle one out with the ring of steps, and that was great. But I'm like, well, all right, that's a heavier stand, ring of steps. It's like, that's not doing me any purpose. It's not doing me any good. It's like, so it's the best of both worlds. I think it's super lightweight. It's not going to take up a lot of space. And, I was just, like I said, messing with it. And it's a cool design. And believe it or not, I was up looking at it, and the way it's designed, it's like almost camouflage, like you look at it, it's like the way it's designed, it don't look like a platform or a tree stand. Like it just looks different in a tree. I was like kind of looking up in the air. I'm like, that just looks different, so deer that are used to like that standard, platform design, like does and bucks are pretty smart to go up. So, maybe it helps break out, the boot outline a little bit more, or the, allows that people to get that limb, because you can push back on those, the handlebars there, I guess you call them. So you look more like a limb if you're a human, almost like a ring of steps.
Yeah, when you mentioned changing your socks, I was putting freaking hand warmers or boot warmers in my boots in Missouri, and it was like -1 degrees. It was freaking terrible. And I was on that Artisan Outdoor Fabrication like deck of cards platform, and so I'm like literally on one foot, like and like it's like at that point, if you drop your boot, like now you have to climb down, and it's so cold, and like all your sticks are sharp and all that stuff, like on your bare foot. It's like you have like one chance.
And even like with the ring steps, because I just use the over booties from whenever I've had them for like 20 years, but put them on, because you got to like climb down. It's like, it's not very comfortable trying to do it like at an angle, like one at a time. And it's like, it's just be so much simpler to just be able to stand even like one leg, stand on the flat with one foot, and then like a ring of step, on the ring step with the left, and just work on the left boot basically, and be able to like set it there and like have a flat working surface. I think is I can see a lot of advantages to it versus, a standard, platform.
Cool, man. John, you got anything else, or?
No.
It's always good to catch up with you, Greg.
Yeah, man.
It's fun. So where can people follow along with your antics, your hijinks?
This YouTube and Instagram, Bowhunting Fiend. You can search my name, Greg. It comes up. I was actually looking at. I don't really understand the analytics of YouTube. I look at it like, I know what I'm reading or looking at. I don't really pay enough attention to it. But I was like, the guys at work, they found me, so they all sort of found me. So I was like, that's you? I was like, yeah, that's me. Like, because I keep at work. It's work. We're not like, I keep it separate, And one guy's like, people search your name. I was like, I guess. So he searches my name and he goes, holy shit, you have all this stuff. I was like, you feel weird about that? I was like, kind of, I guess that is weird. You search my name, all the stuff comes up. I'm like, I never searched my name before, but I was like, oh,
What?
okay. Like, that's a lot of stuff. That's a lot of personal information there. All right, cool. Like,
all those rap sheets and like the
yeah.
Florida man stuff is way down now.
Yeah, exactly. Good. Like, hey, look, don't mind what I did, in circa 96.
You had to do something to get,
Yeah.
muddy it up a little bit. No, this dude, he's just a hunter.
Yeah.
All that other stuff
Well,
way in the background.
that's why and even like the one guy at work was like, so you're covered in tattoos and you're like a hunter. I was like, yeah. He goes, well, were you hunting before the tattoos? I was like, yes. I've been hunting for a long time. He goes, and why the tattoos? Like, I like tattoos. He goes, were you like the first one? I was like, I don't know. He goes, I don't see many hunters with tattoos. Like, don't worry, they're in now. He goes, well, you're old, so you were probably long before this. I was like, thanks, buddy. That just makes me feel so good. He's like, you're like 45. And I'm like, ugh.
Well, that's like when I first heard like your name. So like when it was like the bed hunting stuff, it was like Greg Litzinger, Dan Infalt. So you talk to Dan Infalt, you look at Dan Infalt, and you're like, okay, like middle-aged guy, like, killed a lot of deer, like from a different era, and then I'm like, Greg Litzinger, and I'm like, what the fuck?
Adam,
like,
I remember Adam telling me, like, he's like, dude, I looked up Greg or whatever. He's like, you're never gonna believe what, like, this guy looks like a thug or something, like tattoos, like a skater or something.
I know it's just weird, like how everything like played out. 'Cause I never intended this. Like I don't hunt like, I can delete social media and like I'm still gonna go chase big deer, but like the Dan Infalt, like to be like my name and his name are like synonymous on a lot of like topics. And dude, I'll never be on that guy's level. Like that dude's a whole monster, different monster. Like he eats, breathes, sleeps deer, and he has a lot longer than probably as long as I've been alive. So it's like it makes me uncomfortable sometimes because it's like, hey, and it's like, I'm not there. Like I would love to be there. It'd be cool to be like have the deer that he's killed. It's like I don't have one deer in the record books. Like nice deer, but not one is going to make record books.
Well, I think like it's, I don't know. It's a different like approach, right? Mm-hmm. So like for me, be like world's worst bow hunter, right? Well, I'd imagine there's people out there that are worse, but I've killed some deer, but it's like I always say, like, I feel like deer hunting is like, or like I say, like bucks are like boats, right? It's like somebody's got more money, somebody's got more time, they can go and kill one on a ranch. Like you can buy like $150,000 center console, and you're gonna be like, this is the greatest boat ever, and you're gonna pull it out into like one of the lakes around us, and then somebody with like a 40-foot yacht is gonna come by you, and then somebody else is gonna come by with like a bigger boat, So, and it's the same thing, and like you said, like there's gonna be some dude with a crossbow and coffin, he's gonna kill a freaking hammer, and you just killed the biggest deer. Like this deer's gonna make the book, and you bring it in there, and then you got old, Randy with the crossbow, who's like
crossbow hunter.
Randy. I just lit up my smoke, and then there he was.
Well, that's too like crossbows are legal in Jersey, and that definitely changed because a lot of gun hunters that didn't really bow hunt are bow hunting now. So there's a lot more people in the woods in November than there was 10 years ago. So like the hunter recruitment that people talk about, like I don't see the decline in hunters. I see an uptick in hunters here in Jersey. I see less full-time gun hunters, and I see more full-time hunters that dabble in both. So yeah, I guess crossbow is good in a sense, but I think personally they should have to buy a permit to use it. I think a $25 permit is fair because they could. Those ravens, like my buddy's got a raven, he's not a very good shot. with anything. He can hit a pie plate at like 85 yards. And I'm like, that's not even fair. Like, that's not fair. It's like, that's like cheating, but it's like, it is what it is, I guess. I guess the longbow and recurve shooters say that about compound shooters, but it's like 85 yards of pie plate with broadheads. It's like, yeah, a lot of big deer get killed with crossbows,
Well, and that Raven guy, he's got a $2,500 crossbow. Like, he can spend $25 on a permit. You know what I mean? Like, if you said he had like a $180 Barnett or something, like maybe he's,
exactly, but it's hunting. It's fun, and watching the changes and how things are, what direction things are going on. It's cool that I'm in that mix in some things, like my daughter, she sees stuff like this, or she sees me, my stepdaughter. It's cool that I won't say a celebrity or whatever, but I'm known, outside of my little town, and I like it sometimes, sometimes I don't, but it is cool being part of it, and looking back in 10 or 15 years or even 20 years, it's like, yeah, I was there. Like, I was in there, and who knows where hunting will be, if we're allowed to hunt or even own guns at that point, who knows, but it's a cool stamp knowing that I was part of something, the social media wave of hunting.
Well, I think like at like our cookout there at TAC, when you talk about that, like that was really cool. And I'd imagine like for you, it had to have been like super cool because like there's guys like Aaron and Andy and like, some of the other guy, Kevin, like where you talk to him on the phone or like you see him like through this, but then like you go up and like, you don't even have to be like, oh, hey, I'm Greg, like whatever. Like you can just get right into like talking about like all the same stuff that you'd be talking about anyways. But these guys like understand what they're talking about. They're not like, so what kind of corn do you use? Like, where'd you get like, must have been beets. That's a really big one, like,
Well, that's like Aaron's buddy, like Riley, like Don, like he, like him and I hit it off like pretty well because it was like a lot of similarities, the time frames of hunting. And it's like, wow, it's like when I came out with hunting beds in the morning in October, even when I started like putting stuff out on like social media and some of the other forums, like it was like people were like you can't kill deer in October. And it's like, it's November and it's like, and I meet some people and they're like, this date, big bucks on their feet. And it's like, the more I meet people, a lot of good hunters, like my dates and their dates correspond. And it's like, wow, you killed deer in October. Oh, you killed deer in October. So it's like, all right, I'm not crazy. Like I'm not, like all these things are getting up my head.
They're like, shh, you're letting the cat out of the bag. Let them all think it's November.
So it's cool to meet very like-minded individuals who's learned it, through trial and error like me. Like a lot of my dates and time I kills for doing things wrong for close to 20 years where I killed a lot of nice bucks, but never like a big buck. I'm not an overnight success story by any means. It's like 19 years to shoot 125-inch deer, and actually that's the only deer I've ever seen twice. I passed him up and I shot him, 6 days later because I thought something bigger was coming. It's the only deer on my wall that I've seen more than once. So, but like that was just me being super aggressive, without really, I guess I had an idea what I was doing, and I was like, just when I was starting to like, things were starting to work, playing in my favor, beginning of October, right before that shift happens, so it's just cool, all this stuff, meeting you guys. It's just, it's pretty rad actually.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. And like, that's what I say, like, for whatever it is, like if we'd stop doing the podcast or whatever, like we'd still be doing the same stuff.
Yes.
But we wouldn't get to talk to, like, we'd be stuck talking to the same people, like just that we know, like, so we wouldn't be growing, we wouldn't be learning, we wouldn't be, taking from all these experiences, and we wouldn't, it's great to be able to like have people around you where like if in the season or whatever, like I don't have to worry about you stealing my spot or whatever. I can send you a screenshot and say like, this is what happened. Like, what's the deal? It's not like, somebody's going to move in. You're not going to fly here and move in on me for 110-inch Michigan deer.
Maybe if there's 150, like, oh shit, Greg's here.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I'm in the spot right here.
Like right before you guys we came on, the guy was messing me on Instagram, and asked me about, he found all his buck sign and where, sent me a screenshot of his, I think he had Onyx or base map or something, but he sent me in and he's like, I got all this sign and whatnot. He goes, how do you think this buck is moving? I was like, well, what's your predominant wind? And I just gave him like a quick few things, but it's like, I get messages like that all the time, like the breakdown of map. And it's like, it's cool that I'm, people that they feel comfortable even sending me their spots, like I can decipher almost anybody's spot from a map, because nobody blurs out the coordinates, but I would never do that to somebody because I know what that guy's trying to do. Like I was there, I was doing that before GPS that are like a plat map and a compass, I was doing what this guy was doing. So I'm like, I respect that, and it's like, he's far away from stuff and he's putting in work. I'm like, all right, I get that, and being able to be a part of people's journeys and, the ups and downs, doing podcasts, like, just leave my stamp on something. It's a nice feeling, be able to give back to a community that, I didn't really know existed until, I did my first couple of podcasts and like people were like, hey, I relate to that guy, he's an idiot, but he kills deer. I have a chance, it's like.
Well, that's what I say. Like, I'm the world's worst bow hunter and I can do it. So you can do it too. Like, you can't be as bad as me. Prove it. Like,
So it's, and even like the friendship, like meeting you guys going up there, Johnny, like Bo, Clint, but so many people I've met through all these avenues, and it's very, like we're friends, even like all the stuff disappeared. We still talk on the phone. We'd still meet up, and do like hunting related stuff. It's like, that's never going to go away, and it's just going to continue to grow. And like, hopefully, when I'm older, I look back and we're older and it's like, we're part of something bigger, bigger than ourselves, I guess.
Well, I look at it too, from like, especially for Frank, right? But like for like a legacy standpoint, like if you get crushed by a UPS truck tomorrow, like, your daughters can watch.
Thanks, buddy.
I'm just saying, like, it could happen, right?
Yeah,
like
sure.
You only got so much time, but like
exactly.
They can go and hear your voice and they can see like what you're trying to do and like, you know what I mean? There's always going to be that, and that's huge, I think.
Yeah, I my daughter, she's, a stepdaughter, she looks at that stuff but in a different way, because she wants to be on social media, just because I think it's like a trendy, cool thing to do. But like my daughter, she's so young, she sees me on TV. It's like she gets excited, It's like she's at that age where it's like there's still excitement, and I'm like, I know that's short lived, I'm gonna take it while I can, But like you said, when I'm gone, like my face, my ugly ass mug's still gonna be on there, hopefully if the internet's still around, like she'll be able to see me in my prime, I guess, and hear my voice, my words, and that'll maybe mean something to her.
For sure, man. And I think it's great. So we'll wrap this up so you can get to bed so you don't get crushed by a UPS truck tomorrow. So
appreciate that.
Stay safe.
Later, man.
Oh, all right, Greg. We'll wrap this one up, man. Thank you.
Good. Yeah.